Welcome back to GBGuns. We've got a brand you haven't seen on the channel in a while, Girsan. This is their MC9 SA tabletop review and field strip coming up next on GBGuns. That's right, I said field strip to my YouTube manual reviewers. This gun will be field stripped, which is a basic end user level function, checking for safety and cleanliness and good operating conditions of what could be a dangerous encounter with a firearm. We do this for safety and education. I'll even show you in the manual where it states how this is done. This is not modifying a gun, disassembling a gun, or building a gun. Alright, now for the audience, that's what YouTube used to be about, remember? Opening up the case, up top we have our lock and a brush. There is room for more accessories in there. It looks like maybe a cleaning rod, another magazine, a loader, etc. Those are not included, at least not in this trim level. This gun's been out for a little while and available in a few different trim levels. We'll get to more on that. Next, the manual. I show the manual for a couple reasons. One, I think the manual shows us how well they want folks to understand the firearm. The more a company wants you to know how to use the gun safely and effectively, typically the more pride they have in the gun tends to be a better gun. Also, this is for the YouTube manual reviewers. So we have a black and white manual, basic safety information, including, I think, some smart stuff like telling people that regardless of what you were told, to always check to make sure the firearm is clear. That's an extra detail, but you know, can go to saving a life. There's been some recent Hollywood examples of when that's wrong. We've got our basic parts lined up. The features, and I will pause. Well, you can pause here. I'm going to zoom in and make sure it gets clear on these specs. Now they're all metric, of course, because this is made in Turkey, but it compares it to the MC28 SA, which we've had on the channel before a few times actually, and is some information you may want later. Now, as far as field stripping, we'll get to that part. And here we go. They're calling it disassembly, but you will notice that it is not taking the gun apart any smaller than is needed for next page, cleaning the pistol. There you have it. It's a basic safety thing. The photographs are a little dark, can make it a little bit tough. There's some troubleshooting tips and a full exploded image in case you want to go beyond what YouTube can let us show here. Also have a manual for the red dot that's on here. This I found really interesting because it's a red dot that, one, is included with the pistol at a very decent price. I did a quick search before filming this, and high 3s to low 5s are what this pistol is going for at the time that this is filmed. Hadn't heard of these dots before, but one thing that's pretty cool about it, and I'll show you in a minute, is it's got included fiber optic rear backups, and that is part of the patent of this company. So pretty neat. 4 MOA dot, red dot, follows the RMSC footprint, the little tiny footprint, and runs off of 2032s, which are very common batteries. Also comes with a screwdriver for adjusting. You got a lens cleaning cloth, and even a wheel for adjusting, but I just looked at the site when I do it, so it's not necessary. But nice touches. Now let's get this out of the way and take a look at the gun. Also included in the box are 2 additional backstraps. I can't change them because YouTube thinks that's modifying the pistol, even though that was also in the manual. But we can see we've got one that's got a larger rounded shape to it and a smaller, flatter bit, and a nice tool for pushing out that roll pin to be able to change it on your own. Don't think you need them, don't want to change them? Well, you've got a metal golf tee. The MC9 is roughly a 4 1/4 inch barrel, roughly of course because it's metric measured, and we've got a nice 17 round capacity mag with this little extension on the end there. You can see the magazine is clear, and you can see the chamber is clear. This gun is clear. The grip size is pretty good length. It's almost compact length. You can see I've got that 2.5 finger thing going on. I have large hands, so most compacts that happens. The spacer gives you the full grip. It only came with 1 magazine in it, which was kind of a point of concern. I mean, one of the things that happens when you get more affordable firearms, you have fewer magazines, but then what happens when you fall in love with the gun and you want to run more mags? So I went and took a look in my Boxo mags. If you look at how many pistol reviews we've done on this channel, multiply that times the 2 to 4 magazines that come with most guns, that's how many mags that I've got to dig through. But looking at the cuts on this, I thought, that's kind of Smithish. Maybe somebody else has that, except this tip here is a little high, and it's a little narrow on the back here compared to many other magazines. So I got to try in mags, and I'll show you what I found. The magazine from the Girsan MC9, this is the T or TV model, depending on which one, which site you're looking at. That also came with a red dot. Magazine from it does not have the extension on it, is labeled at 15 rounds, but obviously is the same length. Now, this is a dummy round, you can tell because there's no primer in there, and we've got a plastic projectile. But watch, sticks out a little bit, as we expected. Does it feed? It feeds. Does it lock back on empty? Yes, it does. Do that one more time without tilting the gun down so you can see I'm not manipulating the slide release. I guess I'll have to do it this way. There you go, it locked open. Here's an interesting one. This is a Grand Power magazine. Fans of the channel know that I'm a huge fan of Grand Power, have more than a dozen of their guns and a lot of their magazines. Locks, sticks out a little bit, feeds, and once again, show you this way so I'm not manipulating the slide release. Locks open on empty. So we might have a source for plenty of mags for this. But Graham, I don't have a Grand Power. Well, that's your own fault, but here's another option. This is a Canic magazine from the TP9 SFX, the older version. Locks, sticks out quite a bit obviously. Feeds, however, does not lock back on empty. So, does it function-ish? And another one that I found to fit, this is a Bursa magazine. This is for the TP9 full size. Locks. And it feeds, however, it does not lock open on empty. So, there are other magazine options out there if you can't get your hands on more of the Girsan magazines. More on the rest of the gun. We can see, looking at our magazine release size and shape, that it's likely reversible, though I did not see any information about that. We do have a left-hand friendly magazine or slide lock and release, which is pretty cool. However, it's very stiff. It could just be that my hand is not accustomed to that, or that this is victim to, well, the way most of these releases go, and that is that there's torsion coming across because the actual catch is on this side of the gun, and that torsion, if that metal's not super rigid, ends up causing some challenges. However, as a lock, it works great. We've got some serrations up front here, a little bit on the small side. The front sight post seems to be kind of CZ-ish, in that it's the cut down low. I don't know what sights are compatible with this, if you wanted to change out sights. The slide, well, the whole thing, slide and frame, kind of looks like a Smith & Wesson and a Canic got together. It's kind of an interesting blend. We've got plenty of pick rail spot underneath. Our soft silicone cap just fell off the optic there. More on that in a bit. We have some serrations on the front of the trigger guard for people who like to shoot with the finger forward, and you can see there's a little bit of a hook there to support in that as well. Pretty slick here for support thumb. A little bit of an undercut on the trigger guard, and not maybe as high as others, but it's nicely rounded, so you shouldn't have any of that Glock knuckle type stuff going on. And it's high enough, as I showed you earlier, that I get 2.5 fingers on the gun. The grip texturing is that nice modern kind of laser stippling style stuff that you see. It's not super aggressive. Doesn't feel like it's going to rip any skin off should you decide to carry this thing. Nice and slick where it needs to be to get your hand into a good spot. And a nice rounded edge here on the beaver tail. Coming around the backside, we do have a striker indicator letting us know it's armed. And there's that cool patented fiber optic insert as backup irons. The camera's not going to focus on a red dot. I'm not that tricky with cameras, but it is a 4 MOA dot when it's focused, and you can see the iron sight picture. Slide to frame, we've got a little bit of tilt, a little bit of side to side. That tends to not really make a big difference. I just like showing it because you guys like asking for it. Our serrations on the slide are fairly slick. They're not super deep, super sharp cuts. And then up top we have the witness window for being able to see if there's a round in the chamber, provided the round is shiny enough and you've got good light. Next we'll field strip this gun and take a look inside. Field stripping the MC9 is fairly straightforward and very reminiscent of Smith & Wesson models with that takedown lever. Lock the slide to the rear, rotate that lever, and then of course this is your great chance to make sure that the firearm is cleared. Let the slide forward, squeeze the trigger, slide comes right off the top. Taking a look at our frame, and you know something about this frame I forgot to mention earlier is though it's also a Girsan like the MC28, they seem to have changed the polymer. It's got a harder, drier, firmer feel. This stuff, it's not as if this was not reliable at all, at least not in our experience, but this has kind of a wet slickness look and feel to it, and this is more of what we see on most contemporary firearms. So maybe some modernizations there. Take a look inside. You can see we've got a big long insert for the serial number in the frame because of course as a Turkish gun it's got that 1,000,000 character serial number. But the construction looks pretty sound. It looks like most common striker-fired pistols. Looking inside of our slide, we've got very, very clean machining. We also have the serial number marked on the slide itself. You get the recoil assembly out, we're going to push down a little bit, but it doesn't come out. It is captured flat coil on a steel guide rod. Nice feature there. Tap down on our barrel to unlock it, slide it forward at the back, and you can see we also have our serial number on the barrel. Nice polished feed ramp there. Another look inside the slide. Very nicely constructed, high quality machining, which is what we've come to expect from a lot of these companies, including Girsan. Onto the barrel, we'll check for chamber support using our nozzler as always. You know, I've always said that I use this stuff because it's the most consistent I've tested. I have to admit that has been changing over the last year. Don't know what's going on there, but we might have to change our standard soon. But since we've always used the nozzler, that's what we're going to use. I'm going to drop it into the chamber, and what we're looking and listening for is that nice clunk of it fitting well, like that. And then we want to see how supported the chamber is. And that comes down to how much material of the brass is or is not covered by the surrounding metal. We can see right to about the shoulder there, which is normal, and maybe a little bit unsupported underneath. Not terribly bad, no worse than a Glock for sure, and better than most. So it looks like a nicely sized chamber. Where that comes into play is if you plan on running reloads or potentially unreliable, potentially questionable quality ammunition. If there is to be a blowout and the chamber is not fully supported, that blowout comes right out down here into the frame of the gun. It usually shoots the mag out, breaks the mag, might crack the frame, startle the heck out of you, ruins your day kind of thing. So it's something I like to check for, and it's something that we will see if is a factor or not with this gun when we get it on the range for our What's for Dinner test. Reassembly, we drop the barrel back in as you saw there, locks back in, take our steel guide rod, the smaller end goes forward and sets on the ledge, slide the frame back over the pistol all the way to lock it to the rear, and that shipping oil is all over me now. Flip the lever back up and we're back in business. Quick functions check. Tactikitty approved of that sound. Trigger works and resets. Now about this trigger, yeah, Tactikitty really values triggers. You can see we've got a textured shoe and the safety dingus in the middle. If you want to know what the feel is like, I don't weigh triggers because to me the feel is far more important than the weight. And that's something that you'll just have to come to learn as you shoot. So the dingus, of course, prevents activation without it being fully depressed. Light take up to a wall. Kind of a squish through break, which is a good thing. That can help prevent jerking. Our reset is about average and kicks us forward of that wall. So you have a little bit of take up getting back to that wall. But it's actually a very clean trigger feel. I gotta admit, when I was in the store filling out the paperwork, first couple dry fires just while waiting there, felt okay. I've dry fired it maybe a dozen more times since getting it home, and it's feeling better and better. So I have a feeling this is gonna be a pretty impressive trigger once we're at the range. Is it a national match Uber competition trigger? No, and I don't expect it to be, nor would I want it to be for a gun that could easily be a carry or home defense gun. When you've got that rail like that, it's a great spot for light or laser or other accessories. Check your local news media for suggestions. And this is a great size at 17 round capacity with a 4 1/4 inch barrel. That's an important thing too, since most defensive ammunition is set up for a 4-inch barrel. So you want to meet that or be longer to be sure that your ammunition will perform as advertised. Once you go past 4 inches, you get more velocity, more energy on target. Is it possible to go too fast for a hollow point and have it just basically blow itself apart on impact? Yes. Is that going to happen from a 4 1/4 inch barrel? No. So overall, we've got a really good package here for what is currently listing high 3s to low 5s. Seems like a competitor. If I had to critique anything, it would be that it only comes with one magazine, but as I've shown you, there are other magazines that fit and work. We'll probably take those to the range with us. If we have any issues during our What's for Dinner test, we'll swap back to the factory mag or make sure we're using a factory mag. The range test, if you're not familiar with it, will include full mag plus 1, because not all guns run on that. Then we'll do some ready ups and initial cold thoughts. Well, those go first. The What's for Dinner test, which will test 10 different loads, going intentionally crazy light and crazy heavy, steel case, aluminum case, brass case, full metal jackets, hollow points, all of that. Shooting commentary on how they work and making sure the gun cycles with it. Our spinner test, which is for sights and trigger control. With this trigger and that dot, I expect that to go pretty well, especially because we'll have extra energy from the longer barrel. And then a 5-shot accuracy group and give you our concluding thoughts. We look forward to seeing you on the range. Thanks for watching the tabletop review and field strip of the MC9.